Welcome to the Green Beverly channel, Iris Weaver. Thanks for joining us and nerding out about plants and plant medicine and all things, in our garden.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So you really think about, when we look around in the world, our gardens, the side of the road, wherever, right? It's easy to look at some of those and some of the things growing, and especially when they look a little out of control, that you just want to get rid of them all. So, what is a good way to figure out what the heck is actually weeds? Like, let's just talk about that word weeds for a minute. What do you have to say about that word?
There's so much that could be said, but basically a lot of what we consider weeds are plants that used to be used for food or medicine. Some came over with various settlers, either from Europe or from Asia. Some were already here, some, just are no longer used. And so a lot of what we consider weeds are simply plants that have uses that humans have availed themselves of, but now are no longer seen as being useful. And they are plants that made themselves at home here. In other words, they naturalized themselves. Others they can be invasive. So there's a wide range of plants that are considered weeds. And to know what to do with them, there's a couple of things you can do.
Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. But I just wanted to let you riff about that word in the first place. Are there a couple around here in the Beverly area that you see often that people would know?
Well, dandelion for one, and burdock they might not know as well. Plantain, not the banana, but a broad-leafed plant. Wild lettuce, but they wouldn't know that as well. There's linden trees, which are actually putting out their little kind of lime-colored little tongue-shaped things right now. So linden trees are blooming, and especially in Veterans Park.
Nice. So I would imagine do you have property around your house where you're growing some of this stuff?
I don't have property since I rent, but there is wonderful fields and edges of woods where I forage a lot. And I do take care of a garden in Beverly where I get to forage things. And as well, the community gardens that are right outside my door, pretty much the gardeners have no problems with me pulling out their weeds.
Okay, fantastic. So, what is a good way? I mean, I guess the easy answer is talk to you, but like, what is a good way for people to start getting educated about what actually constitutes weeds? I just bought a property here in Beverly, and the garden just kind of boop, like it just came up, and I'm still figuring it out. I don't know if I want to pull everything out. So what's a good way to start?
Well, really, somebody that knows. I mean, if you have a friend that has some clue about what grows in gardens, yeah, this is a weed, no, this you want. You can often take things into a garden center and they will help you. There are useful charts at garden centers. These are weeds that you want to kill. I don't want to kill them, but they're there for herbicide uses, and they actually can be helpful to identify them. You can look online. You can use a plant ID app, though apps can be very iffy, and I have a whole spiel about that. There are field guides that you can get. You can get them from Amazon or bookstores. I guess you can Google, but again, I'm not real big on just going onto the World Wide Web, which can be wild and woolly and have a lot of wrong information.
Right. So it's nice to have somebody over that knows what they're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So then let's say somebody identifies them and they see, okay, I have all these weeds, or I have all these plants that I don't know what to do with. Like, what can somebody do? I mean, maybe you can outline some of the plants that sometimes, like dandelion, people call those weeds. What can people do with dandelions?
Well, all parts of the dandelion are edible, all parts are medicinal. So depending on if you want to put the flowers in your salad or in baked goods or make wine with them, do you want to use the roots to make a really nice coffee substitute tea? Do you want to kind of chop them up and use them sometimes in stir fries? Do you want to use the leaves in salads or in food or to make a tea? Um,
Can you actually eat the flowers?
you absolutely can. There's
Wow.
one of my interests is edible flowers. It is amazing to me how many things have flowers that you can eat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any other, tell me another one. Like if I see something in my yard, it looks like a weed, but it's not. What's another example of that?
Well, like broadleaf plantain, which is pretty distinctive, and it's got a broad leaf, and it's got very distinctive veins on the underside of the leaf, and they're all parallel from the stem end to the sides of the leaf. And that you can eat the very young leaves. I don't find it palatable. The leaves are really good for teas and medicines to use for the lungs and the gut. And actually, it's a marvelous skin herb. And the seeds can be harvested and ground up and used like flour. They also are a really good laxative, believe it or not.
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, I've taken herbal medicine classes and I remember that there are actual nice books you can also buy,
There
you know,
are
to help.
wonderful books, yes. And so, especially if you're new to the field, there are a zillion books out there, but I would start with a field guide to the medicinal herbs. And Peterson's and I think Peterson's has a good guides for medicinal herbs, medicinal weeds in Eastern North America.
Mhm.
And then there are websites that will list a zillion books. If you get in touch with me, I'm happy to share my book list with you. And there are just so many books, and libraries also carry some of these books depending on what they have on their shelves.
Okay. And so is there any concern, like obviously there are plants that are dangerous. If someone's concerned about having a weed or any plant for that matter make them sick, what would you say to them?
I would say proceed with caution. I think we're very scared of the outside, which is really sad. But if you have any questions, check with a field guide, not with a plant app, because they can misidentify poisonous plants. Get a field guide, get somebody who knows. You can get in touch with me. You can, whoever else is around. My guiding principle is if in doubt, don't. There are not a whole lot of plants growing, say, in our Beverly environs that I would worry about getting you really sick.
Yeah.
So there are ways to find out what you've got going and figure out whether or not you can put it in your body or on your body.
Okay. Great. And so basically, if somebody is curious, I mean, do you come to people's homes? Like yeah, how do people proceed with you in this?
I do come to people's homes. I will charge at some point to do
Yeah.
that. I'm happy to tell you what's in your yard. I love doing that. You can come on a plant walk with me. I am setting those up in the Salem Beverly area. Um, you can get in touch with me and just ask, what is this one plant? You can send me a picture, and if I can identify it, I'll let you know. I often make that offer to people. Nobody takes me up on it, very few people. And I actually love telling you what plant you've got or looking it up.
Yeah.
Um,
Good to know.
yeah.
Great. And I mean, you've already kind of answered this, but is there anything else you want to share about using herbs and plants in your garden for anything other than just, you know, making your food taste good?
Just know what you're doing, because different plants, you use different parts at different times of the year. They may or may not be edible or palatable or
Can you give like walk us through one?
part. So an interesting plant, which is reviled by many people, is Japanese knotweed. Well, Japanese knotweed, the young shoots in the spring are edible. They're related to rhubarb, and you can use them like rhubarb. Later on, they get too stringy and woody and not palatable, and I think even can make you sick if you eat them. But at that point, you can eat them. The other thing about Japanese knotweed is that the root is one of the premier medicines that herbalists have for treating Lyme disease.
Nice.
And that you would harvest in late fall to early spring, the root.
Yeah, that's fascinating. This makes you want to get like a book and read all about local stuff and what you can use them for. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I just go through and read this and that. I'm looking up a particular plant, but I get waylaid by 10 plants before I get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotcha. And I remember, one of the things we did in the herbal medicine woman class was just learn how to be present to the herbs, meaning just sitting with them, listening to them, being in communication, not just, oh, I need it for this, let me grab it, like to really be with it.
Ask it, is it okay if I harvest you? And sometimes it'll say yes, sometimes it'll say no, and you may not know why it said no. And if you can respect that, that's great. Sometimes it'll say yes, you're like, yay. And so you can, depending on how well you're able to receive the communication, sometimes it'll tell you what it can be used for or how to use it. And always, this is something I do, thank the plant. Just thank it for being there, that you get to use it. It is such a different approach to using the plants, to thank them and not just expect them to be there because we're humans and they're plants and they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Yes, I'm reading a book right now by Barbara Kingsolver, one of her early ones. It's called High Tide in Tucson, and it's a bunch of essays. And she just sort of looks at the whole concept of ownership versus territory, and how strange ownership, like of a tree, is. Same kind of thing. Yeah.
Would make more sense for the tree to own you.
Yeah, exactly. And it probably does. Anyway. Great. Well, this has really been helpful. I think anyone watching this would be like, okay, yeah, I know exactly what I want to ask Iris.
So,
And I appreciate your spending some time and nerding out about this stuff.
oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Anytime. I love to nerd out.